There's a specific sound two bodies make when they're being pried apart by firefighters. It's not a scream, it's a rip, a sickening Velcro tearing sound, followed by the most profound silence you've ever heard. And I was there, hidden in my own home, listening to every second of it. All because my wife and my own son-in-law thought they could steal my life's work. They thought I was just a baker. They forgot bakers are experts in heat, timing, and sticky situations. If you've ever been underestimated, betrayed, or made to feel powerless, you understand the hunger for justice, that need to not just win, but to prove your worth in a way they can never, ever forget. Stick around, because this is a story about turning the ultimate betrayal into the ultimate comeback. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more stories where the underdog doesn't just bite back, they set a perfect trap. Let's get into it. My name is Arthur, and for 30 years my world was built on two things: my wife, Julia, and my bakery, Arthur's Hearth. I needed dough before the sun rose. I built that place from a dusty storefront with a single oven into a local institution. My signature sourdough was famous. Julia was my first taste tester, my bookkeeper, my partner. Or so I thought. The first crack was small, a missed deposit. Julia, who handled the books, blamed a bank error. Then a strange charge on our business account, a fancy hotel downtown. A client lunch, she said, but her eyes darted away like startled birds. My stomach, a reliable barometer my whole life, tightened into a hard, dense knot. The real poison came through my son-in-law, Edward. He'd married my daughter Chloe 2 years prior. He was all slick charm and empty compliments. He'd clap me on the back, call me Pops, and ask invasive questions about profit margins and supplier contracts. I'd laugh it off. I was just the baker, right? The artist. What did I know about business?
The universe has a funny way of delivering truth. I was supposed to be at a flower supplier convention. A last-minute cancellation left me with a free afternoon. I decided to surprise Julia with lunch. I pulled up to our house and saw Edward's flashy sports car in the driveway. Odd. Maybe he was dropping something off. I didn't knock. The door was unlocked, and that's when I heard it. Laughter. Not the polite kind, but the intimate, breathless, shared, secret laughter that should only exist between two people who are deeply, profoundly connected. It was coming from our bedroom. My feet carried me forward, each step feeling like I was wading through wet cement. The bedroom door was ajar. And I saw them. Julia and Edward. Not just together, but wrapped in each other. A grotesque parody of intimacy on the bed I built with my own hands. The air left my lungs. The world shrank to the sight of her hand on his back, the sound of his voice whispering something in his ear. I backed away, silent, a ghost in my own home. The foundation of my 30-year life didn't just crack, it vaporized.
But the worst was yet to come. As I stood there, numb in my kitchen, they started talking. And it wasn't about love. It was about the business. Once we have control of the books, we can slowly move the assets, Julia said, her voice cold and clinical. The old man will never suspect a thing. He's too busy playing with flour. Edward sneered. Chloe will get her share in the divorce, and we'll have the rest. It's the perfect recipe. Recipe. They used a baking term. They were using my own life's work, the very language of my passion, to plot my financial ruin. And my daughter, my sweet, kind Chloe, she was just a line item in their spreadsheet, an obstacle to be paid off. The pain was a physical blow, but a second later, It was gone, replaced by something else. Something cold, clear, and focused. A calm so absolute it was terrifying. They saw me as a foolish old baker, a pushover. They had no idea that a man who has spent 30 decades perfecting his craft understands precision, understands timing, understands exactly how much heat to apply. The revenge couldn't be a simple confrontation. It had to be a masterpiece. It had to reflect their crime. Their betrayal was sticky, sordid, and hidden in the dark. Their punishment would be the same, but then exposed to the brightest light imaginable. I began my preparations. I became a ghost in my own house, watching, listening, learning their patterns. I discovered Julia kept a small bottle of personal lubricant in her nightstand. Of course she did. Their affair was built on cheap, hidden pleasure. I went to a hardware store 2 towns over and bought the strongest, fastest bonding industrial superglue I could find. I practiced with it in my workshop, learning its viscosity, its setting time. It was almost identical to the lube in appearance, perfect.
The final piece was the stage. I installed a simple smoke emitter in the kitchen vent, a modified smoke pellet rigged to a remote control. A small, harmless amount of smoke, just enough to trigger the neighbors' alarms. Then I gave them the opportunity. I announced a week-long trip to secure a new grain supplier. I packed a bag, kissed Julia on the cheek, her skin felt like plastic, and left. I didn't go far. I checked into a motel a mile away and waited. It didn't take long. That evening, Edward's car slid into my driveway. The show was about to begin. I gave them time. Time to get comfortable. Time to get invested. For my car down the street, I pictured it. The dimmed lights, the familiar routine, him reaching for that bottle in the nightstand, her not suspecting a thing. My hand was steady as I pressed the button on the remote. Back at the house, the smoke trap in the kitchen began to billow. Within minutes, I saw the concerned faces of our neighbors, the Smiths, peering out their window. Then the beautiful sound, a distant, panicked phone call, and then the glorious, approaching wail of sirens. I drove back, parking just out of sight as the fire trucks arrived. The chief was assessing the situation. Smoke was pouring from the kitchen vent. It looked real. And then I saw her, my daughter Chloe, pulling up in her car, her face a mask of terror. She must have been called by a neighbor. "Dad's away! Mom's in there!" she'd have screamed. This was the moment. The chief made the call. With a single powerful heave, he and another fireman rammed a Halligan tool into my front door, splintering the frame. Chloe rushed in behind them, shouting for her mother. The smoke was already clearing, harmless and scentless. It had done its job. The real drama was in the bedroom.
I was close enough to hear it all. First, Chloe's scream. Not a scream of fear, but of pure, unadulterated horror. Then the chief's voice, a low, stunned, "What in God's name?" I crept to the broken doorway. The scene was more perfect than I could have ever dreamed. Julia and Edward, frozen in a grotesque, naked statue of panic. They weren't just together. They were fused. Their frantic attempts to pull apart had only sealed their fate, skin bonding to skin in a perfect, mortifying seal. They were stuck, truly and utterly stuck, in the act of their betrayal. The look on Chloe's face, it wasn't just hurt. It was a dawning, devastating understanding. She saw it all in an instant. The affair, the lies, the humiliation. She looked from her mother's horrified face to her husband's, and her tears dried up.
Her expression turned to stone. The aftermath was a public spectacle. They were carried out on separate gurneys but still attached, covered by a single large sheet. The neighbors filmed everything on their phones. It was on the local news by dinner. Bizarre emergency call reveals sordid affair. The article mentioned the successful local bakery owner, the beloved community figure, and his betrayed daughter. We were painted as saints. They were the town jokes. But for me, the revenge wasn't quite complete. Poetic justice required a final touch. I knew they'd be in the ER, being carefully, painfully separated. I knew they'd be prescribed a special ointment to aid the healing process and soothe the raw skin. So I made a delivery to the hospital front desk. "For the 2 patients from the, glue incident," I said, handing over a gift basket, from a concerned well-wisher. Inside, nestled among harmless get-well-soon cards, were 2 specific tubes of ointment. Their legitimate labels were perfectly affixed over tubes of the hottest, most volatile mustard I could concoct, a ghost chili and habanero blend I'd once experimented with for a pretzel dip. I heard the screams from the parking lot. Apparently, applying intense capsaicin to superglue abraded skin feels a lot like being set on fire a second time.
The divorce was swift. I had audio recordings of their plotting thanks to a voice-activated recorder I'd planted in the bedroom. Julia signed the papers in the hospital, getting nothing. Edward was served by Chloe before he was even discharged. She left him that day. The business? It's thriving. Chloe discovered a natural talent for management. She's the head now, and I'm the proud heart. Arthur and Chloe's heart. We have a new signature pastry, the sticky bun. It's our little joke. It sells out every day. They lost everything. Their reputations, their relationships, their comfort. They moved away, a permanent punchline attached to their names. The heat I applied wasn't just to their skin, it was to their entire lives. And it burned away everything false, leaving only the bitter truth for them to feast on. People will tell you revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. It's best served with exacting precision. It's about understanding the ingredients of your own pain and using that knowledge to craft a consequence that fits the crime perfectly. They thought they could consume my life and leave me with crumbs. Now they understand that even a baker knows how to turn up the heat. So, what's the most perfectly justified revenge you've ever heard? Let me know in the comments below. If this story of a betrayal baked and served back ice cold hit the spot, then do me a favor. Hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next tale of ultimate vindication. Thanks for watching. Until next time.